Good morning, my friend. It's early morning, about 4:45 on 11 July 2021. It's a Sunday morning. Had a big, crazy storm on Friday night. Knocked our power out for 11 hours. This past week was really weird. The dogs have had a lot of trouble sleeping. They've been up. We've had multiple nights where we didn't get any sleep. And Friday night, I was actually supposed to record with Tommy and Eileen Walker. We're going to talk about this incredible song, What Do You Say, that Eileen wrote, and the story behind that song I think is really important. I've been moved in my heart to bring that story to you, and they've graciously agreed to come on the show. And twice now we've had to reschedule. So 2 weeks ago we were supposed to get together, and I had a patient situation and had to reschedule. Tommy and Eileen were really gracious. And then Friday night we had a Zoom scheduled for Friday evening. And right before we were supposed to record, this insane thunderstorm came rolling in, and we ended up having the internet knocked out. I had to call Tommy on the cell phone and say, I know y'all are ready, but I can't get online. And so they agreed again, very graciously, to reschedule again. And then 5 minutes after we were supposed to have talked, we lost power. And our power was out for almost over 11 hours by the time it finally came back on yesterday. So we didn't sleep 1 second. This storm was really, there was hail and lightning and just crazy wind, and trees were breaking, and the dogs were insane. And we just had a complete sleepless night on Friday night into Saturday. So last week, it just felt like every time I tried to get down to podcasting, something would happen. A dog would wake up, phone would ring, I had a consult or something happened. The internet went out multiple times last week. And so I haven't actually released an episode since Tuesday. Tuesdays with Tata. So we're a little behind. I know you've been patient with me. And then I wake up this morning after finally getting some sleep last night, and I've got a cold. So my voice sounds real sniffly and weird. But if I keep waiting, this past week has taught me that you got to jump on it when you have a minute. So right now, at this moment, it's dark outside. The dogs are asleep. I've got a cold, but we have a chance to talk. So I'm bringing you something today. Hey, by the way, Tommy Walker had a birthday last week. So you hear about Tommy a lot on the show, and you hear his music every time we bring you an episode. So just send up a prayer for the great work and life of Tommy Walker, my friend, who is a great servant of the Lord and an amazing musician. And we will have him on the show, Lord willing, soon. I think this episode turns out to be really important because there's been so much opposition in getting it recorded. So look forward to bringing you that. Got multiple other interviews. We're accumulating some of these. The publisher has been asking me to bring some books on, and I think we've been blessed by John Stonge and Jarrett Stevens and Mark Rogap lately, and we got some great ones coming up that we've got already done or soon to be done. And so got a lot of good stuff coming to you. But this past week, it's just felt like there was this wall up about getting these things done. So right now, we got a window. We're going to do it. So I apologize if I sniffle a little bit. Well, it's ironic. What we're going to talk about today is what it looks like when you record something and the waveforms that get created and the wisdom in learning to look at those things. And it's funny to say that we're going to talk about the quality of recording on a day when my voice sounds not its best, but it is what it is. And there is some wisdom in learning to look back at what you've created before you release it, and understanding the value of good editing, and how that editing can turn into even producing better content from the start. And we're going to have to talk a little bit about the mechanics of how a podcast gets done, so you can understand what I'm talking about when I say that there's wisdom in looking at the waveforms. But we're going to do that, and as always, we're going to start today. Hey, I'm so glad to have you listening to my sniffling voice today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I live in Nebraska in the United States of America with my unbelievably beautiful and brilliant wife, Lisa, and the super pups who have been insomniac maniacs lately, Harvey and Lewis. I'm a neurosurgeon and an author, and I'm here to help you learn about neuroscience, the power of your brain, faith, the power of your spirit, and good old common sense to help you lead a healthier, better, happier life. Listen, friend, you can't change your life until you change your mind, and I'm here to help you learn the art of self-brain surgery. To get that done, you can get the show notes and more on my website at wleewarrenmd.com. And if you like the show, please subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share it with your friends. I want to help this thing grow far and wide across the world so we can help other people make a positive impact in their lives through this word. Hey, I'm Dr. Lee Warren, here to help you change your mind so you can change your life. Let's get after it. All right. So when I record a podcast, I don't just push play and play it out into the world. I actually go back and listen to it again. I have to edit it. I have to make sure that I didn't say something incorrectly. Once in a while, I'll read a Bible verse, for example, Proverbs 3:1, and I'll say, this is Proverbs 3:1. When I go back and listen to it, I'll realize it was actually Proverbs 1:3, and I'll have to go fix that. Or occasionally I'll miss one and somebody will email me and say, hey, by the way, you said X and it was Y. And, I had to, Jiminy, how did I miss that? Right? So I go back and edit it to make sure that it's as good as it can be, that it's as accurate and tight and good and that the quality is high for you so that you have a good listening experience, right? To make sure I save the file properly, to make sure it's as good as it can be. And part of that process is that I visually inspect the waveforms in the software. What does that mean? So when I talk into the microphone, somehow there's some magic of engineering that my sound is turned into an electrical impulse that travels down a cable and goes into a box, a mixer, that allows me to mix the different sound levels if I'm talking to another person or if I'm going to play a sound effect like the theme music like this. Right? I can adjust that volume up or down with the mixer, or I can make it stop altogether. So I got these buttons, I've got all this control, this ability to change what the sound sounds like. And that mixer audio, then the digital impulse of all of that electrical stuff that used to be my actual voice is now a digital impulse inside the mixer that goes down a cable into the computer into a program called Logic. Now, Logic is a program by Apple. There's lots of different kinds of digital audio workstation software, DAW. There's tons of different companies out there that make that DAW software. The one I use is Logic. I'm kind of an Apple guy. So inside of Logic, then, when I speak, I can see on the computer screen in front of me a digital waveform that represents what my words sounded like, right? It's not my actual sound. It's a digital representation of it. But it gives me a way to look and see what the sound looks like on the computer screen. And what I've learned over time is that I have a bunch of tendencies and habits when I speak. For one, I tend to breathe really heavily right before I start a sentence. And you don't need to hear all that. And so I'll go and clip them out. And I'll make the little weird sounds, little clicks with my voice a lot. And you don't need to hear all that either. I say a lot, and I say a lot. And at the end of the day, when I've recorded a 30-minute episode, if there are 200 times of me saying or or making some weird little sound with my mouth, that episode would be kind of irritating to you if I left all that stuff in there. So I go through and I clip as much of that stuff out as I can. Now, it's not always possible. Somebody, especially when you're interviewing another person, that kind of doubles the opportunities for there to be weird sounds, or somebody's phone will ding, or a dog will bark, or there's some weird little thing that somebody does with their voice. Can become overwhelming to edit all of that out. So sometimes you'll have one, and sometimes it also sounds unnatural if you make a conversation completely clean, where there's never a pause or a gap or an or any of that. So there's a balance between quality, so it's more fun to listen to, and that none of those things become distractions, but also where it sounds natural and like a real conversation, right? So I do that a lot by going back through and looking at those waveforms. That really helps me to make a better quality product for you. It improves your experience and makes the content come out instead of just the distractions. Makes it more enjoyable and more helpful. And what I've learned over time is that there are some surprising ways in which inspecting those waveforms has helped me become a better podcaster and a better public speaker, and frankly, a better person in general. And here's why. Here's some of the surprising parts about that. I can see those waveforms now. I know what it looks like on the computer screen when I said, for example. I don't have to go listen to it. I can start clipping those things out before I even press play and re-listen to the episode. I can see pauses in my speech. I know what it looks like on the screen when I click my tongue up against the top of my mouth and make that weird clicking sound. And I can go clip a lot of that stuff out. I know what my breath looks like on the waveform on the screen. And so learning to go back and look at what I said and how it looks on the computer screen has helped me to create better content, because what's happening is I'm thinking about that now when I record. Now I'm starting to say, wait, I know I have a tendency to take a big breath right before I start talking. I know I have a tendency to say when I'm trying to think. And so I'll think about that before. I begin with the end in mind, like a good writer. And I start creating the content with less edit points necessary from the start. Sometimes it filters into what I do the night before. Like if I'm going to record in the morning, I say, I probably ought to go to bed a little bit earlier so that my voice will sound better tomorrow, so I'm not so tired. It starts changing the way I behave. If I'm thinking about what that waveform is going to look like and what the ultimate end point of the product that I'm trying to create for you looks like, it changes my behavior on the front end. I've learned to look for long periods of silence. Sometimes when I'm thinking or I try to look up a verse or whatever, I end up having a 5 or 6 or 7 second pause before I go on to say the next thing. You don't need to hear all that because it'll be annoying when you're trying to work out and there's a big gap in my sound, right? You don't want to hear that. So basically, all of this filters into how I behave and what I say while I'm recording, because I realize it's going to be a lot easier to produce this episode if I don't have 300 edit points to fix. Right? I only got 10. It's a lot more efficient if I just fix it up front and don't say 647 times in a 30-minute episode, right? And then I've noticed also that it starts to filter into my daily speech. I'm aware of my tendencies because I've taken that time to go back and listen and look at what I've said before. It makes me more aware of the things that I say when I'm saying them to you in the real world, in the operating room, in the office, in my conversations with my wife and my friends. I'm more aware of some of my tendencies. You also should apply this to video, by the way. If you ever do public speaking, watch yourself on video. Record yourself sometime and have a conversation with somebody else and look at what you do with your face. I have this weird tendency to look off to the left for a second when I'm thinking, when an interviewer asks me a question, and I've gotten better about not doing that by watching the videos of myself having been interviewed. So then I'm trying to be more careful with how I look because I realize I look pretty weird when I do that thing when I'm looking off to the left. So if you think about and you take the time to go back and inspect the waveforms, the video, the audio, the digital representations of what you've done, it helps you get ahead of that on the front end so that you're better when you're doing it in real time. It just makes everything better. This idea of looking at the waveforms for me has improved the quality of my conversations and my writing overall and in my behavior in my real world. Now, not surprisingly, the Bible has a lot to say about what we say. There's tons of scripture. I'm going to put a bunch of them in the show notes, but I'm just going to read you a few of them. Proverbs 10:19 is one. When there are many words, transgression and offense are unavoidable. But he who controls his lips and keeps thoughtful silence is wise. This idea that the more things you say, the more opportunities there are to make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, it's sometimes unwise if you don't try to do something about them. Control your tongue, control your mouth, and be silent when you need to. Proverbs 11:9, evil words destroy one's friends, but wise discernment rescues the godly. Proverbs 15:4, gentle words bring life and health, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Friend, this is why I'm here. I'm bringing you this podcast because I want to give you, in a world of pain, in a world full of hard stuff, you need some gentle words to bring life and health. And you need somebody who will shoot straight with you, who's going to tell you, yeah, it's going to be hard. Here's how we navigate those things. And why do I know? Why do I have the credibility to say that? Because I've been to war, because I've been divorced, I've been blown up, I've been shot, I've had PTSD. I have found true love, and I've done it right the second time. And I lost a son. And I've been through the hardest thing a parent can go through. And so I want to share some of that stuff with you. I want to bring you some gentle words, but also the words you need to do the surgery to put your heart back together when it's hard. Proverbs 16:24, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. You need some of those kind words. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So there's a lot to be said about what we say. Proverbs 18:4, a person's words can be life-giving water. Words of true wisdom are as refreshing as a bubbling brook. Proverbs 12:18, there is one who speaks rashly like he thrusts a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. And Jesus in Luke 6:43, 44, 45, for there is no good tree which produces bad fruit, nor on the other hand a bad tree which produces good fruit, for each tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a briar bush. The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying if you start looking at the words that you say, if you think about them, if you're going to get to, if you could see in front of you what those words actually looked like after you said them, and you had an opportunity to go edit them and clean them up and get rid of some of those bad waveforms and the big gaps and the weird things that you do with your mouth and the sounds that you make, and you could actually produce a better version of what you said before it has the impact on another person that it's going to have, wouldn't it change everything? Proverbs 21:23 says, whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. I could get in a lot of trouble if I just said whatever came to my mind and released it out into the world and didn't take the time to go back and re-listen and edit and look at those waveforms and tighten them up and make sure that my content was going to be helpful to you and not harmful. James 3:5 says, in the same way the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. That the words that you say, that can seem inconsequential, but that can actually turn into some huge thing in somebody else's life if you're not careful. Or James 1:26, if you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you're fooling yourself and your religion is worthless. So friend, the words that we say, the way that they sound, the impact that they have on other people matters. It matters so much that we be careful with what we say, because one day we're going to give an account of our careless words. Romans 14:12. So then each of us will give an account of himself to God. Matthew 12:36. But I tell you that every careless word that people speak, they shall give an account for in the day of judgment. So my friend, the entire point of this little episode is this. Think about what you say. Think about how you say it and the impact it's going to have on others. Keep in mind what those waveforms look like. And start thinking about how much easier it would be to just say what you need to say the right way first, because it is so much more difficult later to go back and try to fix it. The editing process is harder than just saying it correctly the first time. And remember that while I can fix the waveforms and make an episode better before I release it, once I push upload and those words are out there, it is impossible for me to change how they made you feel. Now, I can come back on another episode and correct myself or try to explain something differently. But once you've heard those words, it's pretty much in there. It's in your memory. You know what I said, and the way it made you feel is part of your life now. And so it's better if I fix it up front. And this is, by the way, this is also true what we say to each other in the real world in real time. It's best to clip those things out before they have a chance to hurt someone. And this waveform metaphor doesn't just apply to words. You know, I told you I can look at the screen now and I can see where I said and I can see when I clicked my tongue and made some weird sound. I can see that. And what if you started looking at your life and you thought about what certain behaviors of yours would look like on the screen before you did them? Okay, every time I do this thing, it produces that outcome, and I have to go try to edit it and fix it and apologize for it and repent of it or deal with it in some way. So why don't I just start trying to make this episode of my life better before I record it? Why don't I start clipping those things out before I let them happen, to begin with the end in mind? Now, my main purpose on this podcast, my driving force in everything I do for you, is to be the guy who brings you the good word. Ephesians 4:19 says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth, but only that such as is good for building up others, as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. I'm here to try to bring you the good word. And in order to do that, I often have to edit what I've said. And looking at the waveforms gives me a powerful tool to be able to do that. And I want you to take that into your real life. Think about what it's going to look like on the screen and let that get into your head before you create those words. It'll make things so much easier for you, friend. I promise. If you take a second to think about what you're about to say or think about what you're about to do and how it's going to look on the screen and how much harder it would be for you to try to edit it and fix it than to just correct it up front, then that would make things a lot better. I've become a much better podcaster because I've learned to look at the waveforms. I want to take that lesson and use it to think about the power of my words, what my life looks like, the impact of all my actions, and to get a better, more efficient, kinder, more humble way for me to look more like Jesus, to be a better husband, a father, a better pop, a better friend, a better doctor. And I want all of that for you too, my friend. I'm getting there by learning to look at the waveforms, to stop making the same mistakes all over again, to think about what it'll look like and how hard it will be to edit so I fix it before I even record it. And you can too, but you got to be willing to look at those waveforms. And sometimes it's not easy, but it's worth it, and you have to start today. Hey, thanks for listening. The Dr. Lee Warren podcast is listener supported. Check out patreon.podbean.com/Dr. Lee Warren, patreon.podbean.com/Dr. Lee Warren. Patrons and partners get free books and transcripts and special patron-only episodes. There will be a new one tomorrow every month. All kinds of massive value in there for the patrons and partners. And partners like you help us to stay ad-free and keep on growing. Hey, please subscribe to the show so you automatically get every episode. And go to my website, wleewarrenmd.com, for more information about the letter, the show, my books, and more. You can add the /newsletter, wleewarrenmd.com/newsletter, to connect to this amazing community of people all over the world. You get my best prescriptions for how you can change your mind and change your life every Sunday since 2014. And you know what? We're just so excited about all the great things coming down the pipe for the rest of 2021. I got good, exciting things to talk to you about in coming weeks. The theme music for the show is Water into Wine by Tommy Walker, graciously provided for free by my friend Tommy. Check it out and learn about the good people who are changing the world over at TommyWalkerMinistries.org. TommyWalkerMinistries.org. If you need prayer, go to the prayer wall, wleewarrenmd.com/prayer, or join us in prayer for other people. It's a great community of people all over the world bearing one another's burdens, lifting one another out of the miry clay. wleewarrenmd.com. Play it, Tommy. I love that look. Hey, you can't change your life until you change your mind, and you have to start today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great July. God bless you, friend. Have a great day.